Good morning. I'm in Canberra in the suburb of Higgins, and this nature reserve or park is on Brazel and Hudson Street in Higgins. And some people have formed a group, a land care group, to look after this park. So that's the playground. They recently asked for some edging, some wood around the edge and some bark. And then there are some little barriers here to stop people mowing, or to stop the government mowing, because these are little conservation areas. It's not your classic kind of green grass park. It's quite dry, but the government still does some mowing. But those barriers were put there to stop the government people coming in and mowing. Can you see two there? And then there's one here near the playground. I remember seeing the men doing those. And the people managing this group, I asked them if they'd like to be interviewed about it, and we might do an interview. So you can see a few of those barriers around to stop the lawn mowing. And I asked for this little spinning item in the playground back in 2017. We did a petition to ask for a new bubbler, a new bin and a new little playground item. And they took away the bubbler, they took away the bin. They were very old and broken, but they didn't replace them. So now I'm hoping to get a new bin and a new bubbler. I have asked the ACT government and our local MLA politicians. We have 5 of them. 1 Greens, 2 Liberal and 2 Labor. So this park is surrounded by 2 streets, Brazel Street and Hudson Street, and this is a little spinning item I got when we did a petition. I would have liked a climbing frame with a slippery dip and swings and all that, but this was really good. This was a good start. A lot of people have done petitions to try and, or they've kind of lobbied. I don't know if they've done petitions exactly like I did, but they have asked for new items. So currently there's just 2 swings and the spinning item. I'd like a little gym where kids can climb around, because that's free entertainment for children. It's very healthy, it's sociable, you can get outdoors off screens. And in this day and age with the current recession in Australia and internationally, and with inflation, it's really important to have free family activities like walking to the local park. The walk's good for you, and then you can come to the local park and have a play. So I've asked for that. And you can see here where some of the people have been working. 2 local women run this group. I won't mention their names for their privacy, but we might do an interview and they can explain what they're doing here. I grew up in Sydney and on the Central Coast, so Canberra plants are very, very different to the rainforest area of the Central Coast. And it's interesting to see these ladies working with land care and read their Facebook page, Higgins Land Care. And so they've spent many, many, many hours weeding and doing all sorts of things. You can see 4 of those barriers there. And some people have said they didn't want changes, and there have been different opinions, I'll say very diplomatically. But, I try to listen to what everyone says, and I respect everyone's opinion. I love all sorts of trees and plants. Some people say, oh, we want the beautiful autumnal trees. The inner north has a lot of those around Lyneham and Ainsley, and why can't we have more in Higgins and have that beauty? And I agree that those trees are absolutely stunning, and the deciduous trees look fabulous. And can you see something happening here? So these people, mostly a group of ladies, but some men, they've been working on all these things, these interesting cages. And I haven't been on my knees doing this. I've been more starting up the Higgins Shops Facebook page and continuing my Canberra Ideas Facebook page, which is about improving Belconnen and West Belconnen. So these women have been out in the hot and the cold and the in-between weathers. And can you see all the little things growing within these little wire frameworks? To me they look like little sculpture installations, something like Janet Lawrence might do. She was once a tutor of mine at art college, and when I studied at White Bay, do you know White Bay on the harbour near Balmain? You just walk around to Balmain. Janet Lawrence was a tutor there, and she tutored in the painting department, but she's really a sculptor, I'd say. So she used to tell people, try and make your paintings more sculptural. And somehow this really reminds me of Janet Lawrence. And I follow her on, I think, Instagram. It's Lawrence with a L-A-W, not L-A-U. So I think these little shapes are like Janet Lawrence's nature work. And I remember the ladies discussing this plant. See these flowers? They bought some of these flowers. They get government funds to do the land care from the ACT government. So somehow all these structures remind me of Janet Lawrence. I did some lily-pilly and other edible rainforest tree plantings back in 1992 as part of a sculptural art project. I planted about 50 edible rainforest trees in 1992 as part of an art studies program back at Sydney College of the Arts. And so that was a completely different group of trees and plants. The Central Coast valleys are very, very different to here. I mean, I'm born in England, Australian father and English mother. So when you move regions, the plants are just so different. And just for my garden in Canberra, I had to walk around and look at what would grow in Canberra. It was just so different to Sydney and the Central Coast. And I could see that lavender and diosma and rosemary and fruit trees and plums and all sorts of different plants, apples grew here. It's very kind of arid and dry and very cold in winter, something I never quite get used to. But, I tried to see what would grow because the house we bought was a bit neglected, and I tried to plant about 20 plants straight away or within the first 12 months in the front yard just to get some growth. And we put in fruit trees. And some local people have said they'd like some space for kids to play. And I've been quite forward in saying I think we need social spaces. We need spaces like picnic tables, because Canberra's a very antisocial place. It's very much go to work and go home and nothing much in between. Maybe a Westfield shopping mall like at Belconnen. And I'd like lots of picnic tables and lots of kids' playground equipment, because I think that's really beneficial for people. I'm not a public servant, obviously. If I was a public servant, I wouldn't run a blog about improving my area, because I'd just be more obedient. You can see up there some work I asked to be done fixing a curb. So I'm definitely not your classic public servant. I came here for an affordable home in Higgins, and I think it's a very peaceful place. It's a lot like somewhere like Narara or Lisero on the Central Coast, or North Epping. It's got that quiet, bushy vibe. You know, blocks of land with a house and a garden and quiet residential, which is very pleasant for people. So I think these little green electricity boxes should be painted because they've got graffiti on them. So I'd like to see some nice paintings on the on these electricity boxes, and you can get government grants for that. So I'd like to see some picnic tables around here, maybe 2 or 3, and grandparents can come and sit with grandchildren in the park. And I'll just film this electricity box here. One lady's walking her dog. So this is the electricity box. I think would look better with a mural. I've mentioned it to a mural artist, and I said he could apply for funding. I think that would look good painted. There are 2, one over there. And then up here is where we have the curb being repaired. I asked for this about 12 months ago. The curb was lifting, I think, because of the tree roots. Most footpaths lift up because of tree roots. Someone's planted something here. I think this is a rebellious person who's planting a deciduous tree, and I quite like that. I like variety. I think everyone's allowed to plant what they like. I think it's all interesting to see people doing different things. And I've had chats to people, everyone's got different ideas, and some people resent something's being pulled out, and they say this is not pure bush, we don't have to make it pure bush. So here on the corner of Hudson Street, I've emailed Tara Chain about this, and she's now the minister for all these jobs. She actually blocked me on Facebook because I've asked for improvements, as did Yvette Berry. So it's interesting to see these Labor women. So I just want to improve my area. So it's great that some funding's come this way, and they've cut out the old raised curb and a bit of, not much asphalt, but it's good to see they're getting onto these things that was badly lifted, maybe because of tree roots. Not sure. Maybe just age, because a lot of people haven't lobbied for jobs here. So that's your tour of the Hudson Street, Brazel Street Park. And it needs a name. It's got a funny name now, Hudson Brazel Street Park. I think we could have a different name. But it's a beautiful piece of urban bushland or park. Some people say no, it's not a native park, it's just, it's been bulldozed years ago and blah blah blah. But other people are trying to restore it, and I respect all opinions. I think it's very, very important to listen to everyone's opinion, because otherwise you get people getting resentful and you get people annoyed, and that's not a good outcome. It's good to listen to everyone. I'd like a couple of picnic tables there, and then people can play some soccer along here and have some fun, because kids really, really need exercise, and adults too. And it's fun. It's free fun. In a recessed economy with inflation, you need all the free fun you can get. And I enjoyed that growing up in Sydney. I grew up next to Centennial Park. My God, that was a lot bigger than this. And we had benches, we had toilets, we had bins, we had bubblers, we had bike hire. Now there are cafes and restaurants and all sorts of things. So this is a little spot. You see people, I've seen about 4 people walking and 1 person cycling. So that's a really lovely corner of Higgins, and it's worth looking after. A new playground, 2 or 3 new picnic tables, a bin, a bubbler, and some murals on those boxes, plus lots of good plant work. So that's my morning walk, and maybe later I can interview the 2 women who've been working very hard, and I could also interview people who have different ideas, and I won't mention people's names unless they want to be mentioned. So, bye bye.